What can you say about Murdoch-employed journalists? They're more often than not obsequious to those in power. They're quite likely to be willing to misrepresent ethnic minorities, people of diverse sexualities, and people of working class origins if it will please their bosses and if it will sell newspapers. Apparently also, they can't imagine what it would be like to work for an organization that wasn't owned and funded by a billionaire. This became apparent on the weekend when Mike Graham, who is probably the most obnoxious host at the most obnoxious outlet that Murdoch currently owns in this country, Talk Radio, he ended up taking a jab at Ash Sarkar, demanding to know how we fund the top quality journalism, they weren't his words, we produce here at Novara Media. Now, he tweeted, Ash still won't reveal who bankrolls the ghastly Novara Media shills, but at least Twitter is waking up to her nastiness. Obviously, then lots of you who are on Twitter responded to let him know that actually it's not a mystery who funds Novara Media. It's you, our viewers, our supporters. And to that, he didn't respond very well. So he tweeted, "Great to see your kind supporters wishing me dead, you absolute horror show of a woman. Keep shilling those pounds out of the idiots. And how do you think it's all going to turn out for your rabble?" Now, obviously don't wish the guy dead, if you're in the comments. But what's interesting to hear is that while Mike Graham likes to complain about anonymous people appearing in his Twitter mentions, he's not such a stranger to being obnoxious, racist, vindictive, an awful human being himself. He's not an anonymous troll. He's a well-paid Murdoch stooge. Ash, I want to get you, because you were directly involved in this. And also you've got a bit of a history with Mike Graham, all his fault. I cannot stand him. I have been in the same room as him once before. Really? It was one of those ones where it's like, really, I had a go at him at the end of it. He didn't respond very well. Ash, can you talk a bit about Mike Graham? What's the background here?
I've never met the guy. I have had no direct interactions with him whatsoever. And he first came to my attention when he was sort of popping up in my mentions a while ago, to call me a man, referring to me as a man, calling me, Owen Jones's boyfriend, I think. And then also on, one of his live streams, referring to me as that bloke with a mustache, repeated stuff. And it kind of encourages a lot of that stuff from his followers. And, I'm not going to get into, whether or not, I look like a man or feminine enough for Mike Graham. I can only assume that he's calling me a man because he has no idea what it's like to be one. He's a puerile child, trapped, in a decaying skin suit. It's really quite sad. He has this history of sort of, late night atting. And then he likes to shift the goalposts. So first he starts out with, being very aggressive. And then, when some of my followers are saying, don't say that, in some cases, which I don't condone, saying horrible things, he's sort of, woe is me, the death of civility in politics, your mob, your rabble. And then when people are like, hang on, haven't you just been, harassing this woman of color and calling her a man and saying she's got a mustache? And he'll be like, aha, but the shadowy funding issue. So it's a way of sort of, dancing around a central gravitational force, which is, I think, a kind of pathological aversion and obsession. Right. When I dislike people that much, and, I am motivated by very powerful forms of hatred. Rita Ora, she's everywhere. I don't rate her. I don't actually spend that much time talking to her about her appearance, though. I just go, you know what? I would prefer to live in a world where Rita Ora wasn't 70 foot tall and, made of CGI on adverts all the time. I'm just going to remove that from my field of vision. Mike Graham doesn't cope with things in the same way. Instead, he likes to go in these sort of, late night Twitter tirades aimed at either my appearance or my organization or the behavior of my followers. Of those three things, the thing that I find hilarious is his targeting of Novara Media, because it's pretty simple who funds us. It's you guys, it's our viewers. And it seems to me that he is glitching in his brain a bit, because on the one hand, he wants to insist that we're marginal, we're small, we don't matter, we're irrelevant. And then on the other hand, he can't imagine us coming out with the kind of output that we do, of the quality that we do, of the, frequency that we do on a tight budget. Now, the very simple solution to this is that, we're a moderately successful and upwardly mobile independent media organization. We've got a funding model which is pretty simple to understand, which is people who like our content pay for it, but it's going out there anyway. We don't necessarily have the kind of, meteoric growth of something like BuzzFeed or Vice, which has been kind of sustained by injections of venture capital, but we grow as our audience does. It's a kind of undeniable thing. He can't get his head around that. So he keeps drawing these inferences about, there being something untoward about how we're funded. Whereas there's no mystery, man. Like, call off the search, Poirot. It's simple.
He flips as well. So he goes from sort of like, your followers are being horrible to me. And then you're like, but you're nastier than them. And he's like, well, then who funds you? And then we give him the answer, and then he flips again. So this is his other very notable tweet from, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? It was this weekend. He said, I break people who come after me, Mark. You wouldn't know what it's like to get death threats, insults, and lefty-inspired poison. Don't be an arse. Now, he thinks he's in Reservoir Dogs. Like, this guy you can barely raise his arm. But also, just to say insults, as you say, he is someone who is constantly, to quite a large audience paid for by Rupert Murdoch, sort of calling a younger, much more talented journalist than him, a man, sort of making completely bizarre, disgusting comments about people's appearances. And now he's complaining about insults. It's like, he is a small child. And I wouldn't care, I would say, like, just starve this small child of attention, which is mainly what we do. But I do think the fact that these people are in the positions they are, because actually the most powerful media baron in this country has, and in America and in Australia, has given it to them, really does tell us something worrying. People say, Rupert Murdoch, he just gives people what they want. Not really. What he is doing is actively funding people who bully people from a different part of the political spectrum to themselves. And it's toxic, and it shouldn't really go unchallenged. Do you think this does go unchallenged, Ash? How have other people in the media responded to this kind of sort of targeting from the likes of Mike Graham?
Well, so last time when it was happening, I then went on and did a paper review with Stephen Nolan on 5 Live, and I didn't expect him to, but he brought it up on air. And so I think that he was like quite genuinely shocked and disgusted by it. He offered Mike Graham an opportunity to come on air and talk about it. Mike Graham didn't want to do it. And so I think that because of how openly vicious it is, it puts him beyond the pale, but not so much to the extent that there'll be any kind of professional repercussions that I know of to it. I emailed Talk Radio last time when it was going on to say, like, is there a way I can file a complaint about this? This is on your content. And they never emailed me back. But it turns out that somehow, I don't know how, Mike Graham got wind of the fact that I'd sent this email. So I wonder, I've got a lot of questions about this. I wonder if that means that he was reprimanded privately and I'd never got a response because they didn't see fit to tell me that the issue that I raised had been actioned in some way, or if the person who I'd sent the email to essentially committed some kind of breach of data protection, which is, rather than continuing a confidential conversation with me and letting me know what was going to happen and then moving forward on that basis, kind of was like, ooh, guess what happened today? I've got no idea. I've got no way of finding that out. Which one of those things it was. But it's either way interesting in terms of what it indicates about a workplace culture, that either complaints aren't taken seriously, or they know that certain things are beyond the pale, but they don't want to be seen to be responsive, particularly when the person raising the issue is someone they'd consider a political opponent like me. So I think that hints at something institutional there. That's a problem. For me, it's not about how many blue checks come out in the cavalry when I'm getting a load of shit. For me, that's not the important thing. It's about what are the kind of structural factors at play that facilitate this kind of behavior from somebody who I assume, is paid relatively well, is given a huge platform, and I don't think takes the responsibilities that come with it particularly seriously.
No, I have to say, I really admire your resilience and perspective on all of this, because I know that you get so much more, attacks than really anyone else at Novara Media, because you're very prominent, incredibly talented, but also because you're a woman and because you're from an ethnic minority. And what Mike Graham is doing is frankly just racism and misogyny, and it's accepted in the News International building, the most well-funded media organization in this country other than the BBC, and you can get away with being a prominent radio host whilst being misogynist, racist, openly. It's not even hiding it. It's not even dog whistle. It's just out and out gross bullying. And I think the way you handle it is so, so admirable.
But you know something? If it was Naomi Campbell calling me ugly, I'd feel bad about myself. I'd like, oh my God, that is somebody who knows something about being buff. Oh my God. Like, it's like, it would be like Nigella Lawson saying that you're bad at cooking. You'd be like, fuck, like, you know something about this and I suck at it. When Mike Graham is calling me unattractive, okay. It's like taking Hannibal Lecter's opinion on vegan cuisine. I just don't think necessarily that you're an expert in the field.